Hello lovely internet friends, my name is Megan. Hello, welcome to the channel if you're new, or welcome back if you've been subscribed already. Today I'm here with one of the videos which I love to make every single year, and that is the mid-year book freakout tag. And this is like the best tag ever. If I could find the original video / creator for this tag, I will link them down below. I'm not sure if their video is still online, but that's pretty much it for the intro. I'm just really happy to be here filming this and to be reflecting on the crazy first months of 2020. So let's begin. The first question is the best book you've read so far this year, and I think that it's too hard for me to just pick one. I actually have three, so we'll just go through them and talk about my mushy feelings for each of them. So the first one, and the first one I read this year, was A Heart and a Body in the World by Deb Kaladi. I do speak of this in a vlog and a wrap-up, and I believe I even might have a separate video for this one because I loved it so much. This is a YA novel. It's a YA contemporary, and it follows a main character who has been going through a lot emotionally in her life, and at the beginning of this novel we don't really know what it is she is going through, but at one point in the novel she just picks up running and just doesn't stop. She was a runner, and it's kind of like her way of like dealing with the trauma, and so we follow her as she goes through this journey running across from Seattle to Washington, and her grandfather actually follows her in a VR, and the entire story is basically being in her head and kind of piecing together the trauma and what it has done to her, as well as her making new encounters along the way and seeing the support that people have for her running, as well as her relationship with her family. And it's just a very beautiful book. This made me super emotional. I did cry a lot because I could relate to this book in more ways than one, and I think it's a book all females should read, and I think it's also a book that should be required reading because it talks about so many important topics, and I just loved it with all my heart. The next book is a very different read, and that is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is a young adult dystopian, and I am so late to this bandwagon, but I'm so happy I hopped on it. This book kind of blew my mind, and I was not expecting it at all. If you guys don't know what the Scythe series is, this is a story that follows people in a world where basically everyone is immortal, and we have conquered famine, we have conquered any health issues people could have. Basically we cheated death, and there's this big thing that controls everyone and makes sure that everything is okay called the Thunderhead. But because obviously you cannot live in a world where everybody populates and no one dies, like you can even reset your age and all that stuff, that wouldn't really work out. So there are people who are tasked to be scythes, and they basically are the only things that are not controlled by this huge thunderhead, and their job in life is to kill people. They have this quota of people that they need to kill every year, and they can do it pretty much any way they want. There are different ways of thinking in here, and it speaks a lot to humanity and what we've taken for granted and how different we are when we've basically been beaten the fact that we could die. Like if we were all gonna live forever, how much that would change us. And it also has a lot to do with being morally gray and your moral compass, and I just think that this explores so much more than just the fact that like you could live in an immortal world. There's a lot of ethics in here and question of character, and we follow two people who are basically scythe apprenticed in this book, and then everything that unravels from there. I really love this for the ethical dilemmas that it brings up, and the fact that maybe life as an immortal being wouldn't be what we expected it, because like I don't want to get into too much of a discussion, but I think it was really interesting how the characters kind of, some of them just don't care anymore, and just because you're gonna live forever, except if you get killed by a scythe, then what's the point of striving for more and feeling like you have so much to accomplish in so little time? When you lose that feeling, maybe you lose the urge to live as much as we do. I don't know, it was so interesting. I really love the writing in this as well, so that was a favorite. But I think if I only had to pick one, I would go for Beach Read by Emily Henry. I tabbed it quite a lot. This I read very recently after all the hype. I couldn't wait for this book to be published. Like, I kept thinking about this book, and I'm so happy it lived up to all the expectations, all the hype and discussions that were happening on BookTube and Bookstagram, and everywhere you would turn your head and someone would be speaking of a book, they would be speaking of Beach Read, and I totally understand. For those of you who are not familiar with Beach Read is a story about two writers. One writes literary fiction, the other writes romance or women's fiction, and their story kind of intertwines at the beginning in college. We don't actually see them in college, but they were kind of rivals, but the rivalry is one-sided, where a female main character kind of hates the main male character because everything she does, he kind of one-ups her. Like, when her book was on the New York Times bestseller list, his was there but higher ranked than hers. And there's always this idea that because he's a male, he's more performing in the literary world, and that discussion alone was very intriguing. But we follow them actually when our main character has to deal with her father's death, and that leads her to moving into a beach house for the summer because she has to clear it out. And her neighbor happens to be that college rival Augustus, and both of them are kind of in writing slumps, so they make a challenge to switch genres, and they go on these kind of writing dates where they show each other. Like, she brings him on romantic dates and he brings her on more like grim literary dates, and they help each other write their books. Everything in this is absolutely amazing, from the writing to the character arcs to the character development to the romance that happens in here to the actual discussion of the books, because they talk about the books they're writing. And well, it's not a dual perspective narrative, but you kind of hear Augustus talk about his book even if you're not in his head, and the communication in here was fabulous, and the relationship in here was just absolutely fantastic. I could not put this book down. It deals with much heavier issues than like the cover could lead you to believe, and I just loved every second of this. My boyfriend was like, I haven't seen you laugh this hard or like react to a book in such a long time, and that's exactly how it felt for me, and it came at just the right time in my life, so forever grateful for this one and loved it. The next question is the best sequel you've read so far this year, and for that I have to go with The Secret of Whinstone Gate by Julia Nobel, which is the sequel to The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane. This is actually a middle grade series, and I love and adore it, and I think everybody should read it, even if you don't like middle grade. This is fantastic. I can't talk too much about the sequel, but I can tell you what The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane is about. It's a middle grade book that follows a main character whose dad has disappeared when she was very young, and her mother is a psychologist that specializes in child psychology, I believe. And the book starts when her mother is at this big dinner, and she brings Emmy, her main character, along, only for Emmy to find out, not by her mother, that her mother is actually going to make this TV show when she's shipping off Emmy across the water from the United States to the UK to this academy, and Emmy will be left there all alone. She knows nobody, and she needs to catch up on their curriculum because their curriculum in the UK and the US is not the same. This entire story unravels when she finds old medallions that her dad has left behind, and we follow them and the connections that she figures out along the way. We also have Emmy in the boarding school life and the friends she makes, and this is like a better version of Harry Potter for like the modern day, and the author isn't actually problematic trash, but we're not going to talk about that too much in this video. But I just think if you liked boarding school vibes, the friendship vibes of like classics like Harry Potter, this is definitely something you would like, and I just adore this, and I think the writing is fantastic. I flew through both of these, and I really hope there will be more books in this series, because as of now there's 2, but I feel like there could be so many more. The next question is a new release that came out in the first half of the year that you want to read but haven't gotten to yet, and I feel like half my TBR could be the answer. But if we're going with 2, one of which I feel like I've mentioned so many times on my channel that I can't believe I haven't read yet, is Moment of Truth by Casey West. I am trash for Casey West. I don't care what people say. I don't really care. She is an amazing writer of fluffy romance stories, and when I pick up KCOS, that's what I think about. I think I haven't really picked up this one yet because, one, some of her earlier releases, that book she released last February, oof, that was bad. That one was bad. She kind of redeemed herself with her July release, I believe, June or July release or something like that. But I'm still kind of on the fence of picking this one up because I'm scared I won't like it as much. And also because the premise of this one is so confusing, and I feel like so many people have tried to explain them on their book channel, and yet, even if they've read the book, I feel like no one can explain this premise to me properly. So I don't even know what this is about. I just know it's KCOS. It has something to do with the main character that swims, and I want to read it. And the other one, which I wanted to talk about on my channel because I feel like not a lot of people have talked about it, in fact I haven't seen one single booktuber who I'm subscribed to talk about it, is The Easy Part of Impossible by Sarah Tomb. This is a book that I feel is going to be very hard-hitting, but is also important. It follows a main character who is wanting to be an Olympic swimmer, and she works very hard and she's very dedicated to it, and basically she spends her life swimming until she makes a mistake at one of her meets, and her coach wants nothing to do with her anymore. But I also believe that that coach was actually abusive towards our main character, and she, not having any coach to swim anymore, has more free time, and I guess she makes friends with one of, like, a boy or something, and she kind of has to unpack all of that baggage with that boy and maybe realize that everything that was happening to her wasn't normal, wasn't healthy. I think that's what I'm getting from this premise, and I don't know, I feel like it's going to be emotional. I think it's going to unpack a lot. Hopefully it does. If not, I might be disappointed, but that's what I grasp from this one, and hopefully I can review it so that more of you guys can pick it up. The next question is your most anticipated reads for the second half of the year, and again, I feel like there's a lot. Usually for like the past 3 years that I've done this tag, I would answer the next book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series because I'm trash for that series that I have yet to complete. I still have to read Capturing the Devil, so I'm a fake fan, but you know. But this year, the series is over. Carrie Maniscalco is coming out with a new book, which I will be ordering and reading because I love her writing, but it's not one that I'm super excited for because it's more of a fantasy novel, I believe, instead of like historical fiction. So I'm less into that, but other than that, I feel like there's so many books. I recently watched Riley Marie's video called like books by black authors you should add to your TBR, and she talked about a book called Cinderella is Dead that is written by a black author, and I have pre-ordered that one. And it is a fantasy, but I thought it was really interesting because it has like a twist on the Cinderella story. It's like 200 years after, like, I guess Cinderella married the prince or something, and things are sketchy. That's what I was getting for it. I'll link the video down below because I thought it was really important, and you could add more pre-orders from black authors to your TBRs. But other than that, the release I'm most looking forward to definitely has to be Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston, which is the third book in the companion series of the first book, which was Geekerella, the second book, which was The Princess and the Fangirl. This one is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it still has to do with the fandom that was created in this world. This book was supposed to come out in June, and it was pushed back because of COVID, so I need it in my hands right now. I'm so excited, and the cover is gorgeous, and it's one of my favorite series ever. I feel like they're very light and fluffy, but also tackle important topics, and that's how I like my books. There's also Chasing Lucky by Jen Bennett that is coming out, that was also pushed back from like May to August, that I'm really interested about. There's Loveless by Alice Oseman, that is a YA novel about an ace character, I believe, and I haven't really seen that rep in a lot of books except for Summerbird Blue by Akemi Dawn Bowman that I really want to get to. There's just so many books, so little time, but these are the ones that come to mind that I'm most excited about. The next question is biggest disappointment, and so many books have disappointed me this year, but the top 2 disappointments. The first one really takes first place, and that is Lucky Caller by Emma Emma Mills. I have become a very big Emma Mills fan since early 2019 when she released Famous in a Small Town. I know that wasn't everybody's favorite, but I actually really enjoyed that one, and it led me to read pretty much all her other books except her first novel, but that doesn't really matter. But then I read Lucky Caller, which was one of my most anticipated reads for 2020. I thought it was going to be like a podcast and similar to Listen to Your Heart by Casey West, which is one of my all-time favorite books, and it unfortunately wasn't really that at all. I found that it lacked plot. I really didn't like the characters. I didn't really like the friendship dynamics, which usually Emma Mills really gets me on the friendship groups, and I didn't really like the friends that the main character had. I wasn't a fan of the romance, and it wasn't actually a podcast, and you didn't really get a glimpse of like what was happening. I just overall was really disappointed. It wasn't a bad book per se. I gave it 3 stars, but not for me, and even if the cover was stunning, it's going in my unhaul pile. Like, it's not something I want to keep or ever reread, so there's that. And then there's also 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson, which, that was also a huge disappointment, and also a freaking spoiler that no one talked about. If you haven't read pretty much all the books he talks about in that book, then you're spoiled for the ending of so many classic mystery books, and I just could not believe it because I read it and then I realized, like, oh, it's spoiling this book, which I didn't really care to read that book. But the more I read, the more I was spoiled, and I was actually spoiled for some of the books I wanted to read, so you might want to check that out if you want to read that book. But even more disappointing was the freaking ending of this book. I wanted to throw it in a trash can and burn the trash can up. I couldn't believe I read all that book just to give me that ending. It was boring, kind of predictable. It made me angry. I liked the first half, and then the ending actually just ruined it for me, so wasn't a fan. And for someone who hasn't read a lot of thriller books to be able to guess what was going to happen, you got some work to do. Apparently it's not one of his best, but I still saw so many hype reviews, so I'm confused. But yeah, that one didn't cut it for me at all. And I couldn't show you guys these books because, well, they're all in my unhaul blog, so waiting to be donated. For the next question, which is the biggest surprise, I'm going to have to go with The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Again, this I read as an ARC. I have a book review on Goodreads and pretty much any book buying site in Canada. So if you guys want the full review, you can go to my Goodreads. But this book was bloody fantastic. This I gave 5 stars and could not have expected to love it so much. I read it obviously before all of the hype for the book, so I just thought it was like an interesting thriller, and I requested it and got approved. But this book actually blew my mind. I'm not a big thriller person, but this book made me want to buy every thriller on the face of the earth, especially other Lucy Foley works. If you guys don't know what The Guest List is about, it is a thriller that follows the premise of a wedding party, and basically the couple that is getting married on a secluded island in Ireland, and it's kind of a creepy island. And we start off the book with seeing that someone gets murdered during the wedding party, and then we flash back to the beginning of the weekend, and we are introduced to the characters, and we are actually following so many different point of views, like the +1, the groom, the person who is hosting, like the wedding planner, I guess, and just so many perspectives, and you kind of advance throughout the weekend, and you're trying to put together who done it. It's basically a whodunit murder mystery book, and I love the writing. The atmosphere of this book was fantastic, and I just was so surprised of how much I loved it, because thriller really isn't my genre, but I could not get enough of it. So definitely biggest surprise of 2020 so far. The next question is a new favorite author, and I feel like any one of these could work, like anyone who's written a book I really enjoyed. Emily Henry would definitely be a new favorite author. I've only read one of her books, but I know she has young adult books. I'm more interested to see if she would not write more adult romance. I think that would be great, and I would definitely pick anything up that she writes in the future. Neil Shusterman, because I feel like for making me love a dystopian he has to get some points. I just think that any author that I've read this year that I've given 5 stars to could definitely be a new favorite author, but I haven't read enough of any of their books to like certify that they're a new favorite author. But basically any book I really enjoyed, I would read from that author again, so they would count, but I don't have anything precise for that question. The next question is your newest fictional crush. For that, I really have to go with Redford, or Red, from Get a Life, Chloe Brown, because oh my god, I feel like he's such a precious little bean. And he's not my newest fictional crush because of his like appearance or how he's described in the book. It's really for his personality, because I haven't seen a lot of male main characters portrayed so beautifully in adult romances. I definitely think he would have my heart like any day. He is a very caring main character. He cares for Chloe and her chronic illness. He is very attentive to her needs. He's very sweet. Everybody loves him. He has an easy smile. He's very charming, and I just love the way he's described and his interactions with people. He's very polite, and he has his own trauma, so he's not like an unrealistic main character, because he has shit he's went through in the past, and I could totally relate to that. And I really appreciated how he decided to actually tackle his issues and confront them instead of just letting it ruin him and his relationships. And I thought that he was very grown up about the way he was solving his issues and being honest with himself and not just saying, oh, like whatever, I'm fine. And I just think he is a great character and a great influence too. Like, if you're reading so many romances about bad boys and all that stuff, and that's fine and it's really enjoyable, but it's really nice to see that you can get characters like these and just have them be sweet beans and lovable and caring, and they're just as charming as the bad boy. So yeah. For book that made you cry, again, I'm going to have to repeat 2 answers and go with The Heart and the Body and the World and Beach Read, because both of these made me reflect on a lot of things, were very raw and emotional books and tackled very heavy topics. I don't want to go into too much detail, but they definitely made me bawl my eyes out. The next question is book that made you happy, and I feel like a lot of books make me happy, and I don't have a specific answer for that one. I could say like Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. It was a really fun middle grade, and I really enjoyed myself reading that one. I could say Heartstopper Volume 3, but if I'm being really honest with myself, I would have to mention a reread of mine, that is When It's Real by Erin Watt, because yes, I recently reread this book. Am I okay? I don't know. Do I love this book with all my heart? Yes, I do. I love this book and will forever be rereading it at least once a year, if not more. This is a new adult romance that follows the celebrity trope, where one of the main characters is a celebrity and the other is like a regular person. And in this case, we follow a celebrity named Oakley who needs to get his reputation in check in order to be able to work with this big producer, because he thinks he's too immature and that he's not really wanting a music career. So his producer team actually hires this girl to play his girlfriend. Like, she's a regular stereotypical like next door neighbor kind of girl, and she accepts because she needs money because her parents has passed away, and she's trying to save for her brother's college education, because she actually takes care of her brothers now. And we follow their story, how they meet, how he's kind of like an asshole at the beginning, and then they go on these fake dates and everything is kind of arranged, and as you would know it, they fall in love, and I just love this book. Like, it makes my cheek hurts. I smile so much. And if you guys love that kind of trope, if you guys like romance or fake dating or hate to love, pick it up, and I swear it's gonna make you as happy as it made me. For most beautiful cover, that is the next question, I have to go with The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is definitely the prettiest cover I purchased this year. I have yet to fully read it, but I know that this is an adult fantasy, and a lot of people say it reminds them of the Wayward Children series, which is one of my favorites, but just this cover is stunning. And the last question is books you want to read before the end of the year, and again, I don't have a precise answer for that. I will read whatever CANDYLAND tells me. If you guys don't know, for most months I use my CANDYLAND Picks My TBR game, which I'll leave in the cards up above if you guys want to see it, but that's how I pick my books. I want to read the books I said that I wanted to read that I haven't gone to yet, like the new releases. I want to read the book releases that will be coming out in the second half of the year. I also want to read more by authors of color and just more diversely, and that's pretty much it. So these are all the answers for the tag. I tag all of you guys to do it, or tell me in the comments, like, answer these questions. And I will see you very soon with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Bye!